All right. So, again, I'm going to keep this brief. What I want to do in this meeting is just really walk you guys through the prompt that we're going to work on for your industry project this summer. You have either the misfortune or the privilege of taking it during the summer, which means it operates more like a comprehensive exam than anything else. But we'll walk through that and we'll talk about some options and alternatives if you guys are interested in that as well. But for the most part, you all are going to be working on the same topic this summer. Again, you're all working for the same kind of prompt to sort of work through this. The summer is a shorter term anyway, and so we sort of take the guesswork out of choosing a topic and that kind of thing on the front end, so you guys can work more in the 10 weeks that you have to actually put the project together. So, I guess the easiest thing to do is actually just share my screen and talk through the prompt itself. So, if we want to share screen, perfect. All right, so. This is our Blackboard shell, obviously, and we are really just going to focus almost solely on the prompt that I've got posted here. I'll pull that up in a second. But just for you guys as review, there are these four modules over here on the left-hand sidebar that talk you through basically a review of everything you should have learned up to this point in the APR program, right? So this one is not as important because we're going to talk through the prompt that I've already given you. So this is more about choosing a topic. We've already got that covered. These other modules are reviews of things like theory, research methodologies, and also industry trends. And so these are just really great modules for you guys to have access to as resources as you develop your projects. Okay. So there's not really any coursework involved in these modules, but the stuff in those modules is there for your review. All right. So this is going to be stuff from courses like APR 550 and APR 551, going over theory and research methods, which will really come in handy as you work through our assignment prompt for this semester. I got a lot of questions, and I sent an email, I think, yesterday about the course schedule. There's not really a set course schedule for our course this semester. It's more of an independent project. And so I'm not regimenting that we have set assignment dates except for the final project. The final project will be submitted in July. And again, we'll go over those dates in a second. But up until that point, it's really kind of up to you to just kind of work through this project, right? You have access to me, and I'm happy to set up Zoom meetings or email back and forth or whatever we need to do to help you through the project. But there's not really any set deadlines up until you submit your final project. And I guess instead of just talking about it, we should look at it. So here is our prompt, and this is posted for you guys on the homepage of Blackboard. And so again, the summer section operates more like a comprehensive exam than you actually choosing a topic and doing an independent project and that kind of thing. So I've chosen the topic for you all. You still have some nuance in how you approach it, but the overall topic is already there for you guys. And hopefully you've had a chance to look through this already. So the main goals of the project in the summer is I need you to discuss theory and tell me that you have learned about models and theories and frameworks throughout this program and can sort of explain those. I need you to talk through research methods and show me that you can set up a research project for practical use, essentially. That you can develop instruments and things that you could use in your actual field, in your workplace, to solve a problem. And then something new that we're doing this semester is actually the defense presentation. We haven't done this before. I haven't required this before. You guys are going to be my guinea pigs for this in a good way. But you actually are going to sort of defend your work as well in a video presentation. So we'll talk through all these in detail. So really, the whole point of this paper, again, this is your capstone project, is to show me that you all have learned what you need to learn and can do the thing, right? Can set up and do research and implement that in your workplace to actually bring about change in the industry, right? It's still an industry focused project. And so we're going to do that through several methods. So you'll see that the deadline for everything is Friday, July 18th. All right. So that sounds close, but I mean it's the full term. So that's you've got several weeks to work on this project. But your deadline for your actual written manuscript, so your paper and your video presentation, which you'll submit as a link, is going to be Friday, July 18th. Okay. And again, that is plenty of time to get this done. It's just early because I've got to review everything and submit paperwork to the graduate school and that kind of thing. So I've got to have time to actually read through everything. So that's why that deadline is a little bit early. So Friday, July 18th. So just make a note of that. That's the only hard deadline that we have in the course is just submitting everything by July 18th. Um, and what you'll actually submit on July 18th is your paper, so your actual written industry project, right? Your written manuscript, which includes part one and two. So the first part of this, obviously, you'll have an introduction and a title page and a table of contents and all that. But your first part, your first sort of substantive piece of your paper, is a applied theory discussion. And again, I've recommended page counts for this. I don't worry so much about page count. I worry way more about the substance of the content. So don't get bogged down by, oh, I only have 7 pages or, I have 15 pages instead of 10. I'm not concerned about the page count so much. I care way more about the content that you're actually including in the paper. So I have a lot of times that students get really bogged down with page counts and stuff. So again, those are there as recommendations or suggestions. Those are not law. Okay. But this first section is where you're going to talk about your understanding of theory. Okay. So we say choose two theories. And again, we have examples like elaboration likelihood or social judgment. There are plenty of other theories, models, frameworks, whatever that you can discuss here. I'm not limiting you to anything that's on this page. This is up to you. So theories or models that you are interested in or things that maybe can guide you in part two, which we'll talk about in a second. Anything there that you want to discuss. This is where you sort of flex your muscle to discuss theory and frameworks and models that you have studied that you're interested in that can benefit your industry. Okay. So theories, theoretical approaches, conceptual topics related to ad and PR, so things like brand management, diversity, whatever. You choose two of those. And for each of those, you're to provide the following: a brief review of the key constructs of that theory or topic, what it is, how it developed, what it does, how it impacts the industry, right? And a synthesis of relevant academic or industry literature related to the theory. So again, I say recommended sort of 4 pages here for each theory, actually discussing what it is, how it works, that kind of thing. And then the more substantive part is actually providing a description of how this theory can help you make decisions or guide your practice in industry, right? So the whole point of discussing theory is that theory guides practice, right? And this is an industry focused project. So we've got to be able to understand and sort of navigate how these theoretical constructs, these frameworks, these models, these ideas can help actually guide what we do in the industry, right? Because again, theory guides practice. Okay. So again, your goal here is to choose two of those and discuss what they are, how they work, how they developed, what the tenets of those theories or models are, and then discuss how they can guide practice. Now, again, I've got a sort of caveat here that this section, this part one, can serve as a launching point for the second part. It doesn't have to, but it can. So as you read through this document on your own, if you start thinking about this part two, which we'll discuss here in a second, and you want to use the theories or models in part one to sort of springboard into that, you can, but you don't have to. They can be completely separate sections, right? They don't necessarily have to relate to each other at all. They can, and it might be a good option for them to do that, but they don't have to. Okay. So part one, this 8 to 10 pages, is just literally discussing two theories or models or frameworks. You can do one theory, one model. You can do one model and one sort of other framework, right? It doesn't really matter what you choose, how you combine those, but choosing two sort of main tenets of all this and discussing that in depth, right? With sources, citations, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's part one. And again, part one can springboard you into part two, but it doesn't have to, all right? So part two is where you actually develop a research methodology, and you have a scenario here that you're going to actually build out a research method for, okay? So essentially, the scenario that you're given in part two is that you're an account manager at an up-and-coming agency that focuses on the implementation of AI and strategic planning, right, for your clients. So AI, again, a huge topic now. It's sort of just in the zeitgeist of what we do now. It's not as new. The new has sort of worn off a bit, but it's still scary to a lot of people. It's still it's new for a lot of people, and a lot of people are hesitant about AI. But your agency actually focuses on using AI for your clients, right? Your organization primarily works with clients in three major industries, so technology, healthcare, and finance. Okay. And you're going to choose one of those industries to focus on. All right. You're not going to focus on all three. You're just going to choose one of those three as sort of the premise of your project. Okay. A representative from a well-known company in one of those industries has reached out to you for assistance to develop their next comprehensive communication plan to reach new customers, right? So your goal is to reach new customers in the next fiscal year for your client. All right. They're unsure of how to breach the threshold of a new audience, but they think that AI could be beneficial in helping them get there. Right. And we can see that too. And we know that that's true in terms of audience analysis or in persona building or sort of deep research. AI can really be useful in the sort of client acquisition area. Um, and so, again, they're also skeptical of how AI plays a role in mis and disinformation, which is also a really huge issue when it comes to artificial intelligence, whether it's generative or otherwise. Mis and disinformation is a huge topic now for multiple reasons in the political landscape that we're in as well. But your client is skeptical of mis and disinformation related to AI, and they're looking for guidance on how to proceed ethically on that front, too. Okay. So a lot to take in there, a lot of pieces to break down there, but you guys are all very intelligent and I'm sure you'll do very well at this. All right. So that's your scenario. And your task is as follows. So provide a comprehensive analysis of the current use of AI in general advertising and PR campaigns, citing its implementation in the following areas. So things like audience analysis, media monitoring, content creation, market research. How are we using AI in ad and PR? Give me kind of an overview of how that's happening or what's happening currently. Okay. Along that same line, to alleviate some of your clients' concerns, discuss misinformation and disinformation, including key differences between the two, and a high-level discussion of how AI can play a role in the spread of misleading or false information, right? So things like deep fakes, things like audio recordings, right? Things like generative ads that are not real, right? Or images that aren't real, right? So discuss how AI plays a role in mis and disinformation and what those things are. And then we're getting into actual research methodology. So compare qualitative and quantitative research methods by providing the core characteristics of both forms. So again, quantitative is more numbers based. Qualitative is more sort of insights based or sort of feedback based. So discuss both of those research methods and how they're different, and the strengths and weaknesses of both of those. Okay. Again, this is just you showing me how that you understand research, right? Um, and then after you've discussed all of that, provide two proposed research methods, one qualitative and one quantitative, that you could use to help plan your communication program for your client. Okay. So knowing the problems that your client has, they need to acquire new customers. They're concerned about AI and mis and disinformation. So from that, you guys will develop research methods to actually address some of those issues, right? So with that, you'll describe the chosen method and provide the potential research questions you would answer. So you'll actually produce research questions with this. Okay. Describe how you would recruit participants, right? So who are we actually using as our research participants for this? Who are we trying to get information from? How would we do that in that quantitative and qualitative methodology? How would you choose your sampling frame if you're not using humans? So if you were doing something like a content analysis, what pieces of content would you analyze? If you were doing something like a discourse analysis, what pieces of media would you actually analyze for that? If you're not using human participants. If you are planning on using human participants, how would you recruit those people? Who are they? Why are you asking them to participate versus another audience? We're not actually collecting data here, so you're not having to do any of that. But you would actually just set up the framework of how you would collect that data. Okay. Um, and then finally, describe the design of your study, including how you would suggest collecting data and how you would analyze that data. So again, we analyze quantitative and qualitative data differently. Quantitative, we focus generally more on the sort of descriptive statistics, your means, your medians, modes, all that kind of thing, versus qualitative, where we're doing more thematic analysis. So discuss actually what you would look at and how you would analyze that data you collect from those survey or those research methods, whether it's a survey, focus group, whatever. And then discuss how AI could potentially be used to develop any research instruments needed for your method. So there are tools out there, AI-based tools that can help you with something like survey development or focus group question development or that can even help you analyze your data, right? So talk about maybe how AI can help in the research front as well. Okay. And again, you're focusing on only one of those industries, so finance, healthcare, or technology. Okay, you don't have to do this for all three. You're going to focus on one because all those industries are using AI differently, and especially in relation to content creation and public relations and advertising, they're using it all differently, right? So you only have to choose one of those routes to go. There's nuance to all three of those industries, and so that's why you only choose one of the three. Okay, so you don't have to do all three. Um, each of these industries, again, has nuance, so you're just focusing on one. Be sure to look into how AI is already being used in the industry's promotions, right? So we know that AI is being used in things like commercial script writing and again, image development and that kind of thing. So discuss how it's already happening, and how you can potentially leverage that in what you're doing. Okay. Um, so again, just looking at the technical side of things, the paper should feature a title page, table of contents, APA citations. Again, I say at least 20 to 25 citations throughout the paper. That's in text and in your works cited. And appendices. So if you put together a survey or you put together a focus group questionnaire, you can include those as appendices in your paper as well, when you're actually doing those research methodologies. Okay. That's not necessarily a requirement for this, but if you want to put together the potential survey or you want to put together the potential questionnaire for your focus group or you want to put together your code sheet for something like a content analysis, you can definitely do that here. Okay, to sort of bump up your justification. But again, the whole thing, right, is going to be around what do we say, 15 and 10. So maybe 20, 25 pages total. And that doesn't include your title page and that kind of stuff. So 20 to 25 pages of content. Okay. Have I lost anybody on the paper part yet? Feel free to ask questions. Okay, cool. So again, this is already laid out for you in this document. So you have this as a reference point. Um, the new thing is once you have actually written out your paper, gotten the sort of actual manuscript completed, the third part, and again, the new part that we're doing this semester that we haven't really done before, is the defense presentation. We normally haven't had our summer students defend their work. And I think it's useful for you guys to be able to kind of verbalize the information back to me. And so we're doing a defense presentation this semester. This is not a live thing. This is not a synchronous thing. This is a recording that you will put together using whatever platform or whatever recording situation you want that's easy for you. And you're actually going to defend your work to me, right? Defend the research that you've done. This is not nearly as intensive as like a thesis defense or a dissertation defense or anything like that. But this video is really me seeing that you can actually explain and justify the research that you've done, and verbalize that in a way that makes sense. So imagine this is that you're pitching to your client, right? Imagine that you are pitching the work to that client that you're working for, right? Which I guess is me in this scenario, but you're pitching your work to me. So final justification for your project comes in the form of a recorded defense presentation. So again, this is a pre-recorded thing. This is not live. This is not synchronous. This is just a video presentation that you are putting together, in whatever, again, method that you prefer, to be submitted alongside your written manuscript, right? Rather than simply reading from your manuscript, you should put key points from your research together in the form of some sort of presentation, slideshow, whatever. Again, the high points, right? Um, to be narrated and discussed by you, the author of that research. Okay. This presentation should hit on the main ideas of your research and explain your theories, your models, potential findings in a clear and easy to understand way. There are plenty of screen recording platforms that are available for free. I used to use one called Loom, that was free and wonderful during the pandemic, and now they've sold out and it is no longer free. So I won't recommend that one to you guys, but there are plenty of others. If you just Google, screen recording, whatever, there are plenty of others that you can use. But you're actually going to sort of narrate the presentation back to me, okay? And defend the research that you've conducted. Again, this is new. We'll see how this goes. But that is a crucial part of actually completing the course. So, and however you record that, you'll just submit a link to that recording with your manuscript. All right, so that's just kind of a different component. So this is new. Definitely, you need to write the paper first, obviously, and get that squared away. And the point of the defense presentation is again in that sort of 8 to 10 minute recording. Walk me through what you did, tell me about it, give me the high points, and the sort of why this matters aspect. Okay. Again, defending the work that you've conducted. All right. Again, this is new. We'll see how it goes. There's a technical component to this that is new. I would always tell you to use Loom. Again, it's not free anymore, so I'm not going to tell you to do that. I know how that works. It's an easy to use platform, but there are plenty of other screen recording and sort of sharing platforms. You can do it on Zoom if you want. Um, but again, I need the link to the video to sort of defend your work. Okay. Now, if you are horribly unhappy with this project prompt, we can talk about it and we can, pivot to a different project. Um, if that's something that you are absolutely passionate about, that you want to look further into, or something that we can make work for an industry project, that's fine. This is my standard sort of setup for a summer semester. So, but again, if you have another option or another idea that you want to pitch, we can do that. Just let me know. We'll set up a Zoom and talk about it. The other side of the Zoom situation is that there's a link on Blackboard for you all to set up meetings with me one on one. As you are working on this, I would recommend setting up a meeting with me at least once over the summer to actually discuss your project, to go through the theories or models or whatever that you're planning on discussing, to talk about your ideas for the industry that you're focusing on, and what you're planning on doing in terms of methodology. Because again, you're discussing quantitative and qualitative, right? So we need to make sure we're on the right track with both of those. And then if you have any issues with your recording or anything like that, you can talk to me about that as well. But you have access to me all summer. Again, we don't have a set schedule, but you're welcome to set up a meeting with me as often as you need to talk through those projects, really up until July, right? Up until it's due. So you've got the whole month of June to have access to me to talk about it. Um, and that's really kind of it from the kind of overview situation. I'm happy to answer questions that exist now, or if we need some time, you guys can email me questions or put them in the chat or whatever. But really, the whole point of this conversation was just to talk you guys through the expectations and sort of what I'm expecting from you all. And again, there's no set real time crunch on this until that final deadline when everything is due. But want you guys to know that you have access to me all summer to discuss or chat or troubleshoot or whatever it may be up until that point to turn that project in. So, any questions from the three of you? I'm sure there'll probably be some from the rest of the class, but um,
Pretty clear. So looking forward to it.
perfect. Thanks, Sydney.
I just have
Hi,
one question.
Professor.
Oh,
Oh,
Sorry.
all right.
go ahead.
We'll do Maya first. Yeah.
So I know we have to pick one industry. Do we need to pick a specific company within that industry?
No, and I leave it sort of vague because I would rather you focus on the industry as a whole instead of one particular organization, because I think that the potential results that you would come up with are applicable outside of just one company, right? So there's application to the entire industry. So think more about healthcare or finance or technology as a whole versus working on, Google or Apple or, whatever a particular company might be. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Abigail?
My question was just when I looked through Blackboard, one of these like due assignments that I saw was that it was like a proposal that we were going to turn in,
Yeah.
which at the time looked like it was chapters 1 through 3, but with this different project template that we're running with, do we just want like, is that just going to be us meeting with you on Zoom to kind of discuss where
Yeah.
we're at in the process?
Yeah, and I know what you're talking about because I didn't take it off from previous semesters, but yeah, so you guys aren't necessarily doing sort of chapters one, two, three, four, whatever. You guys are just focusing solely on the prompt that you were given, right? So
Okay.
the document that's on the homepage. And I think I've since gone in and maybe taken that off, but or I will. But yeah, so you that is for kind of the longer form fall, spring version. And so, yeah, so if you have questions about sort of the framework and stuff, that's where we can discuss in our individual meetings of how you need to set it up and that kind of thing. But as long as you're following and getting the content from the prompt in your paper, you're good. I'm not super set on like the structure of it. Obviously, you need an introduction, and obviously, you'll need those parts one and two. But really, it's not the same structure as like the thesis kind of style that we would do in a fall or a spring. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mm-hmm. Or anything else from you three? I'm sure I'll have questions from the rest of the class after I post this, but okay, great. So, like I said, you guys have access to me up until really the first week of July to sort of talk through ideas or get some clarification or whatever. Or again, if anybody wants to sort of pivot their topic or whatever, we can talk about that too. But it's kind of all laid out for you. This should really just kind of be an independent project on your front. With me kind of helping and assisting. So it's really up to you guys to develop the whole thing. But again, I'm here to help you. I'm not throwing you out to the wolves. So if you have questions or anything that come up, just let me know. And other than that, again, you got access to me over Zoom or email, whatever. So just reach out whenever you guys need something. Right. All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah. All right. So I'll post this video on Blackboard again, so y'all will have access to it if you need to review it. But again, that document is on our homepage. And just reach out to me if you've got any questions. All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Caleb.
you.
All right, folks. Thank you for being on. I'll talk to y'all soon.